Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Alex StarCraft here, bringing you guys another StarCraft 2 commentary at the request of some people who've been following my, I guess you could call it, Stephano series. I've done a few videos on him now, basically two, but let's just say a few. I did a video on a tutorial for him doing his 12-minute max style versus protoss, and then I showed a game of him doing that build versus a protoss who tried some aggression before the, say, 11-12 minute mark, where Stephano would be nearing maxed and get that huge number of roaches. So I showed a game where he won doing it. Some people did want to see Stephano losing doing this style, and I thought what better way to show them, because of course Stephano has a really high win rate versus protoss, like 75% or something, so he doesn't actually lose very many games. However, in the MOG 2012 Winter Championships, he was actually knocked out of the tournament by TSLInori, this red protoss in the bottom right hand corner, in a best of 3. And the previous game I showed was the first game that he played versus Inori, and he didn't win that one. So what does that say? That says he's going to go 0-2 in these next 2 games, and we're just gonna kind of be looking at exactly what went wrong for Stephano in these games. I do recall what happened during this game. I have seen it before, or I should say I recall what the problem ended up being, not so much how exactly it came about, but we're going to see that happening. And in Game 3, I cannot remember what happened at all. So we are going to see what exactly Inori chooses to do this game. And the one thing I will say right now is that, as I've mentioned previously in some of my videos, Stephano doesn't really scout. He's kind of known for that. He's got extremely good game sense. His build is very solid, so he doesn't necessarily have to worry about it very much. By the way, here we see that hatch going down on 15, like Stephano would ideally want. But anyway, it's not a matter of him, what am I saying? He has a really good game sense and a very solid build, but that doesn't mean it cannot be exploited. We will see this by how greedy Inori's build is. I noted this. He does the same opener all 3 games. He goes for his pylon on the low ground, then a nexus, then a forge, then a gateway, and I'm lagging a little bit, don't really know why, hopefully that'll stop, but then a gateway, then a pylon, and then a cannon. So if you thought about it, if you just sent like 6 Zerglings at his base right now, like, you would just win the game because he would not have a cannon. And say you'd gone, I mean, even say Stephano was making 6 Lings right now and rallied them across the map, they would get there before that cannon probably finished, could get into the base and do some damage. But of course, Stephano does not do that. Inori knows that, so he does take advantage. So when you're a Zerg player, do some scouting. Just scout the front. 1, make sure they are forge fast expanding, as I've said previously. And 2, just see, are they going for something ridiculously greedy like this? If they are, be aware of it. Just don't necessarily try and bust it, because you can't really bust it reactively very well. Unless you scout it very early, then you can try. But be aware of it. It can be very dangerous. And you see Stephano forced to pull back and not actually able to kill that probe right there. And so Inori now, as soon as Stephano is on 2 bases, Inori is also on 2 bases. But of course, Stephano does have that 1 queen there, another queen about to pop here, as I've said previously, getting those double injections going as quickly as possible. And the third, about 25 seconds underway, meaning he started it right about the 420 mark. 420. But so we're going to see what Inori does this game. So right now, we see he's just started to get that gas. He's 140 right now, so would not be surprised. He's probably going to start this +1 and the warp gate at the exact same time, just because of the fact, come on, lag. Come on, computer. Just because of the fact that they do take the exact same amount of time to research, but it looks like, no, he's not going to be doing that. He's getting a zealot. He does have a probe out, however, it was caught by those Zerglings, but I'd imagine that probe just went and scouted for Stephano's 3rd, which it indeed did. And okay, what Inori's doing is he's getting that warp gate, and then he's going to go ahead and throw down a Twilight Council. So this is, of course, indicative of either some sort of blink timing or a Dark Templar push. Not generally a charge timing. You don't really do that versus Zerg. But anyway, Dark Templar is, of course, a little less likely, simply because of the fact that if your opponent just, like, has Spore Crawlers, which, of course, Stephano gets an Evo Chamber, and he should have his lair by the time that would hit. So, you know, the Dark Templar don't do a whole lot of damage. So, if as Zerg you scout an opponent going for a Twilight Council, go ahead and maybe throw down a Spore Crawler or 2. That is what I like to do, but generally assume they're going to be going for some kind of blink timing push, which is, of course, going to be later than a normal gateway +1 timing push. Oh, he is going for Dark Templar. Okay, well, I'm stupid. I just totally lied to you guys. But anyway, so he is going to be going for Dark Templar. See how much damage he can do. And if executed properly, don't make any mistake, it can do some damage. It just can be kind of risky because you can be so far behind if it fails as opposed to a blink. Because the thing is with Dark Templar, it's kind of like if they have detection, it's hard to do damage. With Blink Stalkers, they have enough mobility and enough power that you can actually really make them do some damage no matter what the case. And we do see Inori does have the proxy pylon going up, which Stephano does not see. That's another big deal. He actually was not able to stop that proxy pylon from going down. That's something he's very good at. So the opponent is going to maybe start poking with some zealots, and once again we see him throwing up that cannon. Now really quick, going to look back home, we see him adding on 2 gateways in addition to the 3, whatever one he has, he's added on 2 and then added on 2. So he's going to be on 5 gates total. He does have the cannon, he has the zealots, which do not quite a +1, but they will in about 5 seconds. So these Zerglings are going to do a lot more damage than they should right before that +1 finishes, and now that +1 finishes, so these zealots are going to become 50% more effective against these Zerglings, which is of course a huge deal. That cannon coming up, oh my goodness, why am I lagging? I hope it doesn't really continue. I don't really know why I am, but whatever. I'm getting a new processor soon, and we are just gonna deal with it, guys. And I know you guys are strong. So here we see some Zealots pushing in and some Dark Templar pushing in. Now here's the thing, Stephano did not scout this, so he is gonna be throwing up that Overseer as quickly as he can and pulling those drones immediately to stop him from losing too many of them. But you see at this point, Stephano's base is just kind of in disarray here. He does have an Overseer that has popped out now, so he should be able to kill those Dark Templar. He knows there is one in here. And a nice little trick I'll tell you really quick, of course, always make an Overseer ASAP. In this situation, you see he did have his lair completed. And this is why Spore Crawlers cannot hurt if you scout a Twilight Council. Of course, Stephano did not. We see a bunch more Zealots warping in. But one neat little trick is if you have your units surround the Dark Templar and have them hold position, they can actually stop the Dark Templar from moving. But it looks like Stephano's 3rd expansion is going to be going down amidst the loads of lag for my computer. And as a Zerg versus a fast expanding Protoss, when you lose your 3rd, you are in deep doo-doo, essentially. His opponent is going to be throwing down a robotics facility and transitioning into possibly Colossus, possibly Immortals, but at this point, Stephano is behind on economy. We see in the income tab, he is behind on both workers and gas income and mineral income and equal on basis. So this is a very hard point to come back from. So we see Stephano has a bunch of speedlings and a few roaches, no speed yet. It's going to finish right now. And he is running across the map, going to see if he can get any work done. But look at this wall. Nothing is going to break that anytime soon, especially not with all of these sentries. Every single one of them with almost enough energy for 2 force fields. So Stephano is going to see if he can break down these rocks, but he's just going to be getting shot at if he does. And of course, Inori wants to break down those rocks anyway, so having them broken down, you know, not necessarily the end of the world, because he wants to be grabbing a 3rd kind of soon. And we see Stephano trying to drone up, getting his 3rd expansion. I'd love to see him grab a 4th, however, he does not feel quite safe enough to do that. So he's going to break down these rocks, and we're going to have to see, is Stephano going to try and do some work? But all these sentries have a lot of force fields. Stephano pokes in there, probably sees the sentry count, and is like, you know, this is like the worst engagement position ever for a Zerg. I'm not even going to try. But we do see, so Stephano starting to catch back up on workers. He's actually even on workers as we speak, going to be ahead with the completion of those 2 drones. Still on equal basis though, and still only equal on the economy, actually still behind in that gas income. Until he manages to get that next expansion up, so he does poke again. However, his opponent is being very, very safe. He knows he has an advantage, and Inori is just sitting back and making sure he does not blow it by pushing out, getting a bad engagement position, getting a run-by, which I actually think this might be a full wall. So run-by is not really a concern, and we do see Stephano now pulling back, trying to drone up. He's probably going to want to grab these gases pretty soon, but of course we see, looking at his minerals, he does have quite a few right now. So if we look at the units tab really quick, we do see Stephano looking to engage here, but once again, that is just not a good position. It is 41 Zerglings and 10 Roaches, not a whole lot of units, versus 9 Zealots, 11 Stalkers, and 1 Immortal. The Stalkers do have Blink, so that is of course going to make them much, much more effective. He has +1 ground attack, no other upgrades right now, but I would not be surprised to see Inori start on those very soon. Creep spread from Stephano looking pretty decent here, grabbing a 4th expansion. Now that he has this base starting to be saturated with those drones, we see his mineral income getting a significant amount higher, so soon he will probably grab that 5th and 6th gas, and that is of course what you need to really get started going towards the higher tech routes, and that is what he's going to need seeing as his opponent is throwing down a Robotics Bay, which is of course indicative of going for Colossus or Speed Warp Prism. Either one can be pretty dangerous. Colossi are definitely the one that I think deserves to be more feared of the two. And it looks like Inori sending out this observer, going to see, okay, what does Stephano have going on? Now, of course, Stephano with that Overseer is going to actually see it. And he's going to be throwing down a Spine Crawler, just a few right at the front, but you can clearly see Stephano is not in great shape on the economy. He's still actually behind on workers. If we look at the Army Supply tab, which is, I believe, that button, yes it is, he is down 74 to 83, so he's basically down on, like, both supplies. And you can see he's throwing up spines instead of teching up really hard. He's trying to get infestors, trying to get up a fourth, but he is scared. And this is a situation where you run into as Zerg if you fall behind on economy. You have to be like, well, if I try and make workers, if he attacks me, I lose. But if I don't make workers, then I'm automatically behind, and I'm going to lose later on. So it is a very hard situation to be in as Zerg. You see, Stephano has just kind of been playing from behind ever since he lost his third. And I will talk a little bit more about not losing your third in that situation in a bit. So you see Stephano keeping his army outside, making sure his opponent, if he pushes out, that he knows about it so he can really ramp up that unit production. We see him getting infestors and drones. Of course, the infestors leaving him with a lot of leftover minerals. And Inori now has that 5th and 6th gas of his own. He actually has 4 probes on that, but not a huge concern. And we do see Colossi production starting. He is getting that extendothermal lance. There is 1 Colossi out on the field. He is also working on chrono boosting that +2 ground weapons, which of course those ground weapons do so much for the Colossi and the Zealots, which of course both have 2 attacks as opposed to 1. So that benefits them, you know, double. We see Stephano trying to grab another base, getting that Spire, getting that Hive, and a cute little timing you guys may or may not have known about. If you throw down your Spire, when you get your Hive, they finish at the exact same time. You see, they both take 100 seconds, 100 seconds, 100 seconds. So they're going to finish at the same time, so you can get your Greater Spire right away. And Inori actually with a Dark Templar over there, very interesting. Very nice from Stephano, though. Burrowing Zerglings all around the map, so he knows where his opponent is going. We see Stephano's map vision actually quite excellent at this point. He knows if his opponent moves to the center, he knows if he tries to go around here, and he knows if he tries to take any of these expansions. Meanwhile, Inori, I think just using that Dark Templar to make sure Stephano doesn't have any hidden bases, as that is really the only thing that would put Inori in a bad shape at this point. So we see Stephano, you know, trying to get those Broodlords, but Inori is going to know the timing of that Hive and Greater Spire, and you see he is maxed. He is pushing out right before Stephano can have Broodlords, and all Stephano has is this fairly paltry, to be honest, Infestor Roach army. He's going to be engaging by the Spine Crawlers, trying to do as much damage as he can, but you see this Protoss army is so scary. Force Fields going down, preventing the retreat from any of these Roaches. Loses an Infestor right there. The Spine Crawlers just getting killed from a distance without doing much damage. Those Colossi doing so much. Stephano trying to get around the side, but there's probably going to be more Force Fields and pretty good Fungal going off, actually catching a huge number of the Stalkers. And we see Stephano actually not doing a bad job engaging with this army right here. He's constantly Fungaling as best he can, making 12 Roaches and 20 Zerglings, 8 Corruptors, and those Corruptors will of course not only allow him to get Broodlords later on, but will kill those Colossi, which you see 6 and 5 kills each. That they are just doing so much damage. The Immortals as well, 5 kills, the Colossi up to 7, another reinforcing Colossi, but now Stephano is starting to lose all of his Infestors. Fungling, trying to keep the army out. Now he is rallying units that are just more or less being destroyed. He's attack moving in as best he can, but you see these reinforcing units just in tiny little clumps getting destroyed. Now he does have 8 Corruptors out now, and he is going to be able to decimate that Colossi count, but you see Inori with those proxy pylons reinforcing too quickly. The Stalkers with the Blink, with the Immortals, all of them with +2 are just too good against Roaches. We see Stephano pulling drones off the line from all sides, getting a decent surround, but Inori just blinking them back, throwing up force fields to stop them from getting the surround on the Immortals. And at this point, Stephano is not yet down on supply. He's actually still ahead. He's trying to hold so very hard. We see in the income tab, he's still not in terrible shape regarding workers. He's 20 more Roaches and 20 more Zerglings in production. He's doing a great job keeping up with his injects right here. He's going to try and hold the ramp if he can. A little bit more lag, but I'm not sure if Stephano's going to be able to do it. He does not have Infestors to help stop these guys on the ramp. He is going to be attacking with the Roaches from both sides, but some brilliant Blink Micro coming out from Inori. The Colossi, again, coming in and starting to do so much damage. You see, it does fall to those Corruptors, but at this point, Stephano is now down on supply. A bunch more Stalkers reinforcing. Stephano no longer has very much of economy. He has no mining natural and no mining main. His roach numbers are dwindling quickly. However, he's still in the game. He's still trying as hard as he can to reinforce. He's a bunch of spine crawlers over here, which actually could be useful. Once again, the unit's starting to push into the main. They might try and snipe the infestation pit, the evo chambers, or even the spire or roach warren or spawning pool. Those would do a lot of damage. But you see, the problem with those blink stalkers is when controlled correctly, their numbers simply do not diminish. And there's the congrats thrown out from Stephano. He says congrats instead of GG. His opinion, as he has stated, is if someone beats him, they deserve a congratulations. So I agree with that. Now, why? What went wrong for Stephano in that game? Scouting. Scouting, scouting, scouting. It is not a bad thing that Stephano does not scout. I cannot judge him for that. He is an excellent player, far better than me, or really almost any foreigner for that matter. He is amazing, and I love him. However, he relies on his game sense a lot, and occasionally, something like that, a Dark Templar build where he is not expecting it, will hurt him. And this is why I say, I'm actually going to go ahead and rewind really quickly, maybe not 4 minutes, no 4-minute Dark Templar, that would be kind of scary. But I'm going to go ahead and like point this out. So say, gonna pause it really quick. Okay, no, this is actually after he's already lost his 3rd expansion. Let's hit back to 8 minutes here. So say Stephano had poked in, and even say he got his overlord to here and then it died. All he saw was the Twilight Council. And Zergs, this is something I think you should do. If you see a Twilight Council, we're going to go ahead and see what happens. Oh, I hit back again by accident, but we're going to play it. If you see a Twilight Council and there's some units that are going to hit you, think about it. I will show where the Dark Templar come in and how effective it will be. That cannon, of course, very annoying. Still no Dark Templar, and there are Dark Templar. So imagine, if you see it, throw down a spine or spore crawler that can cover stuff. Throw down a spore crawler right here, which will totally guard anything from getting into your main or into your natural. And throw down a spine crawler right here, and that'll stop your 3rd from getting hit. Simple as that. That could have made a world of difference for Stephano. However, for whatever reason, he was not expecting it, and he was a little too late. So that is my recommendation. So we do see there is one way that the build can lose, is if you do not scout your opponent properly, and if they do something unexpected like this. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the last game of the series to show you guys another example of why this build is good and what are some of its weaknesses. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful afternoon.